Good morning, or afternoon actually. Please go ahead and label this page 36. And today, y'all are going to be factoring polynomials in what is called quadratic form. Okay? So today, you guys are going to learn the fourth and final method for factoring. Tomorrow, we're gonna actually kind of put a couple of these methods together. So that should be a ton of fun. And then we're just gonna practice, and you have a test next week. Woohoo. Okay, but first, back in the day, y'all used to have to factor things that looked like this. So let's say x squared minus, 2x minus 21. No, 35. Making this up on the fly if you can't tell. Yeah, 35, that's a good one. Okay. All right. So back in the day, like last week, you used to factor functions that looked like this. You would put that last number, negative 35 on top, negative 2 on the bottom, and you would look for two numbers that add to the bottom, multiply to the top. So add to the bottom, multiply to the top. Okay. And so looking at 35 and negative 2, you would think to yourself, oh, that's going to be 7 and 5. The 7's going to be negative because that 2 is negative. Negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2. Negative 7 times 5 is negative 35. We're golden. And you would absolutely be right. And we would write our answer, if we were factoring, not solving, we would write our answer as x minus 7 and x plus 5. And that's how we would factor, okay? So basically what we're doing is more of this today, only we're not gonna quite be factoring things that look like that. What we're going to do instead is we're going to factor each of the following. So go ahead and write number 1, x to the 4th minus 3x squared minus 18. And then number 2, x to the 6th plus 7x to the 3rd plus 12. And then we'll come back up, don't you worry. Number 3, we're going to go x to the 8th plus 3x to the 4th. And then minus 4. And then you know what? Number 4, we're gonna go, what are we thinking here? Let's go x to the 4th plus x squared minus 20. Yeah, there we go. We'll start with those. Okay, so these all should kind of be familiar. They should look a little like this, but there should be some differences. So check out each of these 4. And sort of decide and see what's different about them. And what you should notice actually is this. See how your middle guy here was just an x and all of these have exponents? I have x2, x3, x2, x4. That's a new one. You also should notice whenever we do this, usually this number here is a 2. But if you're looking down here, none of these are 2s. I have x to the 6th, x to the 4th, x to the 8th, and then another x to the 4th. And so that actually is a little bit weird, and so we're going to have that come into play later. But the moral of the story is we can actually still use this, even though these are different. And so we are going to use this thing as long as we have equations that look like these. So if you notice, each of these have 3 terms. You don't always have to have 3 terms, but you do need to have the following. So check out each of the degrees. What do all of them have in common? You have 4, you have 6, you have 4, you have 8. That's right, they are all even. So if your degree is even, then we can actually use this method we're going to look at today. But we also have to have something else that is true. We also need to have a little bit of a relationship between the degree and the middle term. So if you notice, this degree is 4, middle term exponent is 2. This exponent is 6 and 3, 4 and 2, 8 and 4. So what's the relationship going on with these two? Well, 2 is half of 4, 3 is half of 6, 4 is half of 8, and then 2 and 4 again. And so what I'm noticing is, oh, the middle term is actually half of that first degree. So your middle exponent must be half of the degree. As long as these two things are true, we can totally still use that x thing, that x bar. And that's exactly what we are going to do. So we'll look at the first one. I'll have you try the second one, look at one more-ish, and then we'll talk some nuance here. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to factor this just like normal. So I'm going to put negative 18 here. I'm going to put negative 3 here. Okay? And then I'm going to do my thing. So I need two numbers that add up to negative 3 and multiply to negative 18. So pause if you want to take a second, figure it out yourself. Or if you already know, we're looking at 6 and 3, and that 6 would have to be negative in order for the 3 to end up being negative, okay? And then normally what I would do, like what I did here, I had minus 7 and 5, and I wrote minus 7 and 5. I'm going to do the same thing here to start. I'm going to write x minus 6 and x plus 3. But the difference is I am going to have to add something into both of my x's here. I am going to take my degree and I am going to cut it in half. So half of degree is 2 in this case. Because 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I'm going to put 2's here and here. Okay? So once I have put 2's here and here, I'm pretty much done. There might be more I can do, but this is where right now I'm going to stop. So once I have factored, I do exactly what I did here, but I have one extra step, and that is to take the degree and cut it in half, and then put that 2 here and here. Okay? So take a second. I would like you to try the process with number 2. So you can pause the video if you want, whatever you need to do, but take a second and go ahead and do the same thing with number 2. Okay, assuming you paused and tried, sure you did. We would do 7 and 12. I need numbers to add up to 7 and multiply to 12, so that is 3 and 4. I would write x plus 3 and x plus 4, just like before. But then, once again, I'm going to look at that 6, my degree, and I need half of 6. So half of 6 equals 3, and so I'm going to put that 3 exponent on each of my factors. Okay? So that is most of the process. There is, however, one more step. So I can actually sometimes keep factoring, and so I'm going to try that. So what I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at each of these. Whenever I have an x squared, I might still be able to keep factoring. And so I am going to try and set this up. Negative 6 is going to go on top here. And if you're noticing, I don't have a middle term. And so since I don't have a middle term, my middle term is 0. Same thing here, I have positive 3 and my middle term is 0. And I am doing this because this is x squared. This is an even number, so I can actually keep doing this. And so though, however, there really aren't any numbers that multiply to 6 or 3 and add up to 0. And so after I've done this part, I have to try factoring. And if it doesn't work, then I'm just going to write my two answers as they were before, because there's nothing I can do to simplify them. Nothing I can do to simplify, so I'm done. Okay? I would do the same thing here, except for these are 3s. These are odd. So I can't do the x thing. So no x thing for odd degrees. So that's good news for now. Is there still more I can do? Well, sometimes, but luckily in this case, no. So my final answer here is just going to be x to the third plus 3 and x to the third plus 4. Okay, so we're going to look at 2 more of these, and we are going to keep going, see how this goes. So same thing, I want you guys to just do this step for me. So set up your thing, get me these 2 numbers, and then write your factors, okay? So do at least this step for me for numbers 3 and 4, and then when you're ready, unpause the video and check your answers, okay? So go ahead and try numbers 3 and 4, and then again, when you're ready, you can unpause the video. So pause right now, try them, and then check back in when you're done. Okay, so hopefully you paused and tried this yourself. If not, this might be kind of a lot, but we are factoring both of these. We have -4 and +3, -20, +1. 4 times -1 is -4, and 4 plus -1 is +3. So 4 and 1 are the numbers we're working with here. And then finally, because our original degree was 8, half of 8 is 4, so each of these need a 4. Same thing here, we have -4 and +5. And once again, our degree here was 4. Half of 4 is 2. And so both of these are 2. Okay. So in these cases, though, we are going to be able to continue on. And so if you notice, both of these degrees are even. Both of these degrees are even. So we have to at least check. And if you notice, all of these, every single one of them are always going to have 2 terms, which means the bottom of all of them every time once we're here are all going to be zeros every time. So we have +4, -1, +5, -4. Okay. So here, I need to think of 2 numbers that add up to 0 but multiply to 4. And 2 times 2 is 4, but 2 plus 2 is also 4. It's not 0. And if one of them was +2 and -2, that would work, but this is positive. So you know what? There is nothing we can do about that one. We cannot factor it, and so we're going to leave it as x to the 4th plus 4. Okay? However, over here, -1 and 0, well, I can actually do -1 and +1 because -1 times 1 is -1 and -1 plus 1 is 0. So this time I am actually going to write this as x minus 1, x plus 1. And then because my original guy was 4, I'm going to split this into 2 and 2. We'll come back to that one in a second. Let's continue on. Here, 5 and 0, nothing's going to work here because 1 times 5 are the only things that go into 5, and there's no way I can make zeros out of those. So I will just bring down this x squared plus 5, nothing I can do there. This one though, -4. I think 2 and 2 can work because -2 times 2 is -4 and 2 minus 2 is 0. So cool, I'll go ahead and put x plus 2, x minus 2, and then because my original guy was 2, half of 2, so half of 2 is 1. So I could put 1s here and here if you wanted to, but you don't actually have to. So I could actually just not put anything. I could just leave them as x's. And so I will do that, and I am done. By the way, just for funsies, our original guy up here, this is what we do. If you split 2 in half, half of 2 is 1, and both of these are x to the 1s, even though we don't write it, okay? So this guy is done. Once we do not have an exponent here, once we have no even exponents, there's nothing more I can do. So let's go look over to this side. So this one we know we're already done. There's nothing more we can do. These two, though, are both even, so we actually have to check them again. Can you believe it? Ugh, okay. Well, here, they're always going to have zeros on the bottom every time. And this one, +1 and 0, that's never going to work because the only numbers that go into +1 are 1 and 1, and 1 plus 1 is not 0. So that one is a nope, okay? So that means this final answer is going to be x squared plus 1. This guy, however, totally works because -1 and +1, just like it worked up here, will work this time. So I'll have x minus 1 and x plus 1. And then once again, I got to take this number and half of it. So half of 2 is 1. And I would put that here and here, except for it's just 1, so I don't need to. And then finally, this one, I already know I can't do anything with it. And so I will bring this monstrosity down. And that nasty thing right there is my answer. Fun. Okay. So that is a lot, my people. That is a ton, in fact. But this is the process. So part 1, I check to make sure this is even. If it's even, great, we go ahead. Then I factor it and I write my answer like this. If this is as far as you can get, great. But if you got this, then keep going. We then try factoring. There are always zeros on the bottom. Sometimes these will not work and you just leave your answers the same. And sometimes they will work and your answers will be slightly different. So we're going to practice. This one was bad. Whenever you have a big exponent, this can actually be really terrible. Also a reminder, if these two exponents are not even, you can't do this. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so your job, and the thing that I am actually checking for tomorrow, is going to be this page practicing. So I'll give it a chance to focus. It is not focusing. Now it is focused. Here we go. Okay, so you are going to solve the following. So you are going to do some practice here. Oopsies. Hold on, turn my little light. Go. Okay, so practice. Okay, so you are going to factor each completely. So number 1, you're going to do x to the 4th minus 3x squared minus 40. Number 2, you're going to do x to the 6th plus 6x cubed plus 8. Number 3, you're going to do, where did it go? X to the 4th plus 8x squared plus 15. And then your last one, a little tricky guy. You're gonna do x to the 4th minus 81. Dun, dun, dun. You're gonna be missing somebody, but you got this, I believe. Okay. All right, people. That said, y'all are gonna practice these, try them, see how you do. Tomorrow when I come back, I am going to check that you did each of these and give you points in Atlas for trying them. So I'm not going to list the answers. Also, this work is tough to find on the internet, so actually give it a shot. Don't copy Julius. He doesn't know everything. Most things. All right. Happy Wednesday.